5 years ago, I sat down in front of this camera, actually that camera there, when I turned 40 years old, and I told you that age pretty much didn't matter if you wanted to get into software development. This year I turned 45, and software development has changed dramatically with the introduction of AI. So I might have to update the messages that I told you in that video. Is it still worth it to get into software development in 2026? Watch this video. Wait until the end and I'll give you that answer. The reason why I decided to make that video was I thought 40 was a good milestone in someone's life, that I had enough knowledge and insight to be able to share what I thought. Being that I had already been working in software development for many years, I thought that I could provide some value. And the general message in the video was that it didn't really matter if you were 40 or 50 or 60 if you wanted to get into software development. A lot of things have changed, and the biggest one is the introduction of AI, and not just the introduction, but the fact that more and more companies are using it in their day-to-day software development cycles. So that has changed the industry completely. By the way, if you haven't watched the original video, I'm gonna leave a link in the description so you can go watch it, but not right now. Finish this video first and then you can go watch it. In large, the ideas that I had 5 years ago still stand. I still believe that anyone getting into software development should start by learning the fundamentals of programming. That's something that you cannot skip. Whether AI is there to assist you or not, or to almost do all the work for you, you still need to know the fundamentals of programming to understand what the AI is doing. I don't think the answer to whether you should get into software development relies only on your age. I think other factors are involved, like being curious, having patience, and being disciplined to learn how to code are the biggest factors in the equation here. But also, if you're 50 or 60, you're not too late if you really want to get into the industry. Something you do need to understand is that the scope of the things that a software developer does has changed. Since you are able to write more code, or you are able to write code quicker with the use of AI, you are now expected to do more of what you were doing before AI was introduced. For example, if I was able to complete a feature in a week, my employer now expects me to finish 3 or 4 features in a week. And obviously they expect me to know how to use AI to expedite the software development process. 5 years ago, you were able to get a job very easily. Companies were looking for developers, and if you showed that you knew how to code or at least understood the basics, it was highly likely that you could land a job. But now things are different. There are a lot of developers that were laid off, and I'm not talking about just new graduates or junior developers. I'm talking about senior developers who have been looking for work for months or even years. Even the interviewing process has changed. When I was laid off back in 2022, and I'll circle back to tell you a little bit more about what happened then, but when I was looking for a new job, in one of the companies that I interviewed with, after I got past a couple of rounds of interviews, they gave me a take-home project. It was a small application, yes, it was simple, but it was requiring me to have the knowledge from a front end and a back end, and they gave me only 2 to 3 days to finish it. I forget if it was 2 or 3 days, but it was a short amount of time, which is a really good test to be able to show that you understand the fundamentals and you can leverage AI to build something like that at that speed, which makes sense. That is a good gauge to be able to tell whether someone is able to code at the pace that you need them to. Interviews were not that difficult back in 2020. Back then, you would easily find a job being a front-end developer or a back-end developer. Now, a lot of the companies, even if you're a junior, they require you to be a full-stack developer. Not only has the interviewing process become harder, but there's also a lot more competition when you're looking for a job. Even when you have a job, you still feel like the job security that you felt back in 2020 or several years ago. You don't feel the same job security anymore. At least I don't. Going back to the part where I mentioned that I was laid off in 2022, I remember that during the interview process, I had more than one option, meaning I was interviewing with more than one company, and it was at least 2 companies that were ready to give me an offer. So I was able to negotiate pretty good, and I got a good compensation plan. But what happened is that maybe I over negotiated. After a few months working there, I noticed that they started hiring developers from Argentina. First of all, I don't have anything against immigrants or any nationality out there. I'm an immigrant myself, but I did start to notice that instead of hiring developers located here in the US that were hiring developers somewhere else where obviously the salary would be cheaper for them to afford. Fast forward 6 months later, I think I was working there for about a year and 2 months or so. I get a call and I get laid off. At that point, luckily I was able to get a position right away. But a few months later, something scary happened. I get a message from someone in LinkedIn asking me about how it was to work for that startup. And I replied, right? And I told them, yeah, it was great while I was there. Like they consider you, they treat you well, everybody's nice. And I was curious, so I asked him, like, hey, how much are you being compensated and where are you located? He told me he was from Canada, and he gave me the figure that it was something like half of the salary that I was making while I was working there, or very close. And that scared me. That just kind of tells you that it's really hard to compete as a developer now. I know that in the news you hear about H1B visas, but I think the greatest threat is those people who don't have to leave their country to get a job here in the US. And again, I don't have anything against those people. We are all trying to do something, find a better opportunity, but that is hurting the people or developers who are working here in the US, and we have to pay for cost of living here in the US. Well, regardless of that, that's just one more thing. The reason I mention is to kind of highlight another downside of getting into software development right now. I'm not sure how things are going to change in the next year. Maybe next year things shift and then companies realize that, hey, you know what, in fact we do need junior developers, and I 100% believe that we do need junior developers. We can't sustain this. No one else is coming into the industry. No one new is coming in. The existing senior developers that are on the older side are going to eventually retire. That workforce has to somehow be replaced. At least that's my opinion. So consider that when you are making a decision of whether you want to get into software development. And besides that, that also goes back to the point where you don't feel the job security that was there before. AI didn't just make software development faster, but it also pushed companies to start trimming the workforce. They started laying people off. And the tasks that were done by junior developers are now pretty much automated, which some people say that it lowered the barrier to entry or it raised it. Let me explain. So a lot of people say that now with AI, you are able to start coding applications easier. Even if you don't have the experience of a senior engineer, you can still go in and start building apps, right? So I think the barrier to entry in that way is easier. But the chances of you finding a job as a developer, I think, have diminished. I think it's really difficult right now to find a job as a junior developer or as a developer in general. And if we think about this a little more, a lot more developers than there were before, and a lot of developers are willing to take a pay cut to land a job, which means that the salaries across the board are going down. It's funny that I'm mentioning that because not too long ago I had to make that decision myself. I was presented with an option of you stay on and you keep working, but you're gonna take a pay cut, or I'll give you X amount of weeks for you to start looking for a new job before we let you go. I didn't want to risk being out there in the job market right now, so I decided to take a pay cut, and I'm hoping that things get better. I mentioned earlier that if you do want to start a career in software development, you should learn the fundamentals of computer programming. But that used to be valuable then. Now it's a given that you need to know that. And maybe even back then it was a given that you needed. But what matters now from the employee's perspective, those things have changed. I think that problem solving, obviously it was important, it's still very important to this day. I think now you being able to manage yourself and plan things out, it's more crucial than it was before. I think before you could take a day or two completing a story or a ticket. Now they expect you to do 2 or 3 tickets in one day if they're simple ones. So you have to be able to plan things out and sort of think of what's going to happen, not just today, but in a work week. So you just have to plan things better. You have to be more independent, self-sufficient. You have to be able to communicate things, because since things are moving so fast, you are spending less time coding. You are expected to spend more time designing and troubleshooting things and provide solutions or alternative solutions for the problem at hand. You have to be able to pick up that domain knowledge. You have to be able to understand or learn a code base a lot quicker than you were before. And again, you can leverage AI to do that. In this case, in your 40s or later, I think that your communication skills have been refined or could be better than from a 20-year-old. I don't know, maybe I'm making assumptions here, but you've been communicating for a longer time in your life, so I think you should be better at being able to explain problems and communicate with others. There might be an advantage there if you have really good communication skills. The biggest advantage that you could have right now if you want to get into this industry is being good, really good at writing prompts. You would be surprised how many senior developers are struggling with being good at writing prompts, and some of them just flat out are giving up on adapting this new technique in their day-to-day. But I think that those people are going to be left behind. AI is pretty much like a part of your day-to-day. There's no other way around it. My advice, if you want to get into software development now and you are 40 or older, is to not aim to only be a coder. Aim to understand the whole software development process and be good at it. You have to be able to understand systems quickly. You need to be able to understand new code bases quickly. And again, you can leverage AI to do that. You have to position yourself as a thinker who is able to come up with solutions for problems and not just a coder. Don't think that knowing how to code is going to guarantee a position out there in the industry. You have to be able to analyze the problem and provide solutions as quickly as you can. Going back to the original video, I think that video was accurate the time when it was published, but I think right now the question is are you willing to adopt AI and become a 10x developer? Pace of being a developer, it's faster. You have to move faster. You have to be able to pick up one task, change context really quickly is what I mean to say. If you're working on something, you could be called to go fix something else, and you have to be able to switch context really quickly. That will give you an advantage. And now the million-dollar question: should you get into software development in 2026 if you are 40 or older? The answer is not very clear. If you think about how people say that software development is not lucrative anymore, from my perspective, yes, I did take a pay cut, but I'm still able to pay the mortgage and the bills, and I get to work from home, which is a huge advantage. And then you could also be pessimist way and think, okay, well, if I don't work in software development, what else can you work on that will not be affected by AI? Unless you want to be a plumber or someone who has to work with their hands. Like, for example, I used to do construction. If things get a little worse, I might have to go back, and there's nothing wrong with that. But I guess the question here is, I think that all jobs are eventually going to be affected by AI in one way or another. And I think that the number one thing that I could suggest, whether you decide to get into software development or not, is figure out a way to leverage AI, because it's not going away. Whether you go into software development or not, you have to be good at leveraging AI, and that's it. Now, if you are willing to go deep in leveraging AI in whatever industry you're in, and if you also do that in software development, you could still have a good job. Landing the job is going to be difficult, but once you're in, it's still a good job. This is going to deter all those people who just wanted to do software development for the money. But I think if you really like coding and creating applications and troubleshooting, this might still be a path for you. Hey, well, thanks for sticking around, and I'll catch you in the next one. I still feel like there was a lot more to say, but just not enough time. I wonder if I covered everything I wanted to talk about. I think I did. All right, that's a wrap.